welcome everybody to another episode of Sig Daddy's Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Sig Daddy, and today is the week in review for the week of November 22nd, 2019. I'm glad to get this to you at this time, just a little later than usual. This week had a busy week, being my birthday week. Had a lot of fun. Also enjoyed AEW Dynamite live in Indianapolis. I'll talk more about that later on in the show. But yeah, it was a fun birthday week. Very, very busy. But let's get it kicked off. Monday Night Raw on Monday. Started off with that Becky Lynch promo. Talking about how she was ready for a fight at Survivor Series, and then the Iconics interrupt, and then Charlotte comes in and stuff, and ends up being kind of a just their paths have always intertwined and stuff, and it was asked if it was okay if it was her partner or whatever, and how they're making history and stuff, both of them. So, but it was all right, little set up, and then Samoa Joe comes out like right at the end of the promo, which was like, I was like, what is he doing out there? And then we realized later on that he was joining commentary, which I got to comment on. Samoa Joe is a natural at commentary. He just added so much that honestly I could do without Jerry Lawler on there now, because Samoa Joe was so dang good. It seems like CM Punk, he was in that role at one time. I think back when he was injured, like 2010 or so or whatever. He did a really good job at color commentary that I remember. But then it was the Iconics versus Lynch and Charlotte. It was over in about 2 minutes, but it was okay. Sets up Flair and Lynch as they're both dominant figures in this. And then after that, it continued. The Baszler and company came down, and Flair and Lynch chased them, and then Lynch threw a punch, knocked out a security guard and stuff. But it was an all right segment, still adding the heat to the Lynch, Baszler, and Bayley match at Survivor Series. Then the OC come out and talk. Then the OC comes out. Carl Anderson talks how he's going to beat up Humberto and stuff, and then it was set up a match with Humberto and Carl Anderson. Carl Anderson ends up winning with an inside cradle on Carl Anderson, as Street Profits were out there kind of giving Humberto some backup, as AJ Styles and Luke Gallows were at the ring with Carl Anderson, as Luke Gallows kind of helped out forcing the roll-up or whatever on the inside cradle, and then Street Profits pushed him over as the ref was distracted, and they got the 3 count, got the win. It's building Humberto up to maybe another U.S. title shot. It wasn't bad. Gets Humberto some more momentum than he lost after those first, 3 matches he lost, two against Styles and then one against Rollins. And then we'll get the great and wonderful Lana coming out, and I don't know why they keep saying her name is, she's the Ravishing Russian, when she's not even she doesn't even speak in a Russian accent anymore. Just something there. It's something that's kind of dumb. I just don't agree to call her the Ravishing Russian anymore when she doesn't even speak Russian, at least a Russian accent. And then we get Lashley versus No Way Jose and stuff, and whatever. It was pointless. And but yeah, Lana can just stop doing promos, please. It is just how she can't even. It's like Rusev can't stay in 90 feet, 90 miles, whatever. She botched that or something there. Nothing against her as a person, but man, this angle and this everything is not doing her favors, nor Rusev, nor Bobby Lashley. Whenever this is over, I'll be really happy. And then we get Seth versus Andrade, and then if Rollins loses, I think Rollins gets removed from the team, and Andrade is the new team captain. Zelina Vega got distracted, actually ejected after a Hurricane Rana attempt. She got caught by the referee and stuff. Late in the match, Lucha House Party interferes, costing Andrade the match. It's kind of weird having Lucha House Party come out and try to beat up Andrade during the. I just don't see them as threats. And so Rollins and Andrade clear house and they shake hands, showing a little cohesiveness to the Raw team coming into Survivor Series this coming weekend, which I'll have that up for you on Monday, speaking of that, and then I'll also have an NXT War Games pay-per-view review up on Sunday. So be ready for those things here on Sig Daddy's Wrestling Show. Murphy and Tozawa was actually earlier, there was a segment earlier on in the show where AOP attacked Hawkins and Ryder, who were supposed to get tag title shots tonight, but that obviously didn't happen, as AOP actually finally did something other than do a little video vignette. Then we get Murphy and Tozawa. We got a pre-match video from Tozawa, which was nice because we haven't seen Tozawa in a long time, and a lot of people aren't familiar with him. And that's something I wish AEW would do a little more to give us more layers of a character so we get to know them better. But actually, AEW did do that this week. I'll address that here in just a few minutes. But it was a good match, showcasing both guys, Murphy and Tozawa. Tozawa looked really good. Murphy and Tozawa both getting their offense and looked very good. It keeps Murphy's momentum going, hits Murphy's law as he's probably going to get ready to take on Aleister Black here in the near future. Black, then Rowan, there's a segment where Rowan's talking to his pet thing or whatever. Kind of odd, I don't know, it's kind of weird. But then Black and Murphy stare down. Then we get Rowan versus a jobber. And then the Singh brothers run out with R-Truth chasing them. Rowan takes out the Singh brothers multiple times. Claw Slam gets the win. We got to give Rowan some actual guys that they're on the roster. I'm not a big fan of these local jobber squash matches, especially on Raw, as we've seen them 300,000 times. But then we get a Randy Orton interview. Orton saying he's the greatest Survivor Series guy pretty much, and then he will pick a partner, a special partner that will benefit him likely against which was likely going to be Ricochet, which it turned out to be Ricochet. They'll face the Viking Raiders later in the night. And then we got KO versus McIntyre. Heck of a match. I enjoyed that. It was a really good match between McIntyre and Owens before Survivor Series. We had a lot of Survivor Series kind of matchups before. We had the Rollins and Andrade match. Teammates facing off against one another. We had KO versus McIntyre. This was a really good match. But Triple H comes out before Owens makes the cover on McIntyre after the stunner. Then we see Forgotten Sons, Damian Priest, and Dijakovic out there. He cuts off a promo on how they don't want you on the main roster and how he really was the guy that legitimized NXT. I thought this was a really good segment, kind of teasing who's going to defect at Survivor Series, because they've teased Rollins, they've teased Owens, both former NXT guys. Wonder who they're going to go to next on likely SmackDown. And they pretty much saying they don't give a crap about him and such, but I thought this was really good. And then Undisputed Era comes out, jumps Owens from behind, and then the OC counterparts make the save. So that was a good thing to see. And then following the commercial break, there was a pointless promo from Humberto, but then we actually get Rey Mysterio coming out, talking to him, hyping him up a little bit. But we get an explanation of we had a video package kind of recapping the Brock Lesnar Rey Mysterio story. And Heyman talks and pretty much says no holds barred at Survivor Series between Brock Lesnar and Rey Mysterio. That should be a really good match. Looking forward to that at Survivor Series. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is shaping up to be a very, very good Survivor Series. We got the Viking Raiders versus New Day versus Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. That's setting up to be a heck of a match. We got Rey Mysterio versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship. We got Bray Wyatt versus Daniel Bryan for the Universal Championship. It's setting up to be a pretty good show. And then we get a Natty versus Asuka match. Natty wasn't there last week for the tag match, so I think they just did this for this week. But Natty got distracted by Sane late in the match, gets back in the ring. Asuka knocks her head off with a roundhouse for the win, as this keeps Asuka's momentum going. And these two will team at the Survivor Series, so should be interesting. It was a decent match. And then we get to the main event. Orton and as partner of choosing versus Ricochet and the Viking Raiders. Very obvious pick. I wish that YT's a mystery partner when we all knew it was going to be Ricochet since they're feuding right now. But Orton, and it ends up pretty much being a melee. It was a fun tag match when it was going on, but just kind of a big melee. I think we've had way too many of those melees. I just wish we'd end up with someone on top, but it sets up the kind of Survivor Series, kind of building it up hyping it up as this is a big deal of NXT, Raw, and SmackDown. But it was okay. The match, but it was an all right show. I just felt I didn't give you great analysis on that, but the show overall was all right. It just felt like it was forever long. I don't know. It just kind of dragged in spots and stuff. The Lana promo was terrible, but we got some really good wrestling, especially with KO and McIntyre, and then also Murphy and Tozawa. They killed it. Both of those guys killed it. There was some really good wrestling on this show. It just felt a little long, and we got to cut out the Lana stuff as soon as possible to me. And then we got NWA Powerrr, and then it brings up the elephant in the room, Jim Cornette. He said something racist on there. Not good. Not a good look. He resigned the next day. I didn't get to watch it live when that actually was said, but what he said was pretty racist and pretty offensive, and I don't condone that at all. That's unnecessary, and it's just unacceptable, period. That was just bad look. And he already said something about suicide and stuff, so it was time to cut the cord with him. And let's get into the actual show. I heard what he said. Good. It was a good thing that he resigned. But we start out with Marquez with Aldis, and it's Camille he's talking about Camille, saying that her decisions are her own, and then talking about taking care of business in the squared circle and such. While waiting on his next challenger, he decided to take on Murdoch in a non-title match, kind of talking down Murdoch during this segment, but then we get Murdoch and Aldis in a match, and Murdoch looked pretty good in this. Trevor Murdoch looked really good. He's got the fans behind him and such, and Aldis was kind of playing the heel in this match, and he's still kind of talking down Murdoch and stuff, but Murdoch loses after he jumps off the top rope, kind of slips. It was a little weird slip up there, but Murdoch loses with the I think cloverleaf, if I'm correct. But it was a good match to start out the show. Enjoyed it. Gave Murdoch an opportunity to shine a bit, and then we get the Rock and Roll Express with Marquez. Kind of talk about being 9-time champs in the wild card, saying they're going to get their bleep kicked or whatever, and then saying Rock and Roll Express can kick their. It's just kind of setting up the match for next week. Nothing bad on that, but then we get the question mark versus Ricky Starks. Colt Cabana's on commentary on this, and it was more about setting up the match later on. It was okay. Question mark is super over with the fans, and I liked how they did this little play after Stevens interfered, where kind of Stevens raises his hands and he goes booed, and question mark raises his hands, he gets cheered and stuff, but they both beat up Ricky Starks after the match, and then Colt Cabana makes the save, so it sets up a tag team match later on in the night. And then we get Joe Galli and Cornette announcing the tag team match later on in the night. And then we get an Eli Drake interview, and he's talking about how you want to make some noise. Anderson comes out and says he's tired of running his mouth and wants to settle it in the ring now. Drake then attacks Anderson from behind. Then he hits him with the turnbuckle, essentially turning himself heel. Then we get Ashley Vox and Allison Kay versus Thunder Rosa and Marty Bell. this match made me want to see Rosa and Kay fight for the title, because this is really putting Rosa over as a big deal and a big threat to Allison Kay's NWA Women's Championship. But Melina makes her debut late in the match, distracts Kay. Rosa rolls her up for the win, and then Belle jumps Kay after the match. Rosa hits a double stomps on Kay, and then Melina joins Belle and Rosa in the ring, making their faction legit and something that Vox and Kay and whoever else is on the women's roster in NWA have to combat. Good, kind of setting up this big group in NWA, some kind of big power group, as Melina really solidifies them, gets them a big name in that group, kind of being the ringleader of both Rosa and Belle. Then we get Starks and Cabana versus Question Mark and Aaron Stevens. And Stevens and Question Mark are a fun team to watch. It almost reminds me of Mizdow as Miz is playing the heel and Damian Sandow was playing the face when they were back in WWE. It's kind of like that similar dynamic, and I'm really enjoying it so far with those two. But Starks tried to rip the mask off Question Mark, but then he gets his eyes raked by Stevens. Karate chops. Stevens hits, and then Stevens goes in for the pin. Post-match, Stevens says they did it with the power of karate, and then Question Mark comes in and says it too, and Question Mark gets the cheer. Of course, Stevens gets the boo. It's a fun dynamic between those two. I really like what they're doing with that. And Question Mark, man, he's over. It's like, who would have thought a guy in a suit would be over? Like a masked superhero or whatever. And then before Marquez finishes up, James Storm interrupts, complaining about how Aldis is not defending the title. He's getting mad and crap. And then Camille comes out, whispers something in his ear. Storm says he's sorry about your damn luck, and then ends the show. It's kind of setting up something with Camille and Storm. Are they working in cahoots, or is Camille just to get jumped or something like that? I thought it was an all right show. Not my favorite episode of NWA Powerrr, but still, it was a good show. Fun dynamics, a good group setting. Like, we're setting up groups and stuff, like the Rosa, Melina, and then Belle. We also get Question Mark and Aaron Stephen, which is going to be a heck of a dynamic to see. And we keep getting this Nick Aldis stuff, kind of talking down on people and stuff, and it feels like he's on his way to a heel turn and stuff. And then Eli Drake, we get a heel turn from him. So a lot of stuff happening on NWA Powerrr, but we got some storylines developed as Ken Anderson and Eli Drake's issues are continued. But not a bad episode. I enjoyed it though. Some decent wrestling, still good. For my final show of the week, it was AEW Dynamite. I did not watch this on TV. You know why? Because I was actually there on Wednesday night in Indianapolis. It was a heck of a time. It was really fun time. Match by match, we'll go with Nick Jackson first against Ray Phoenix. I thought it was heck of a fun match with those two. Great opener. As Nick Jackson's, that was his first singles match in 4.5 years, and dang, did he look good. Both of those just have great in-ring chemistry. They got that from their tag match and stuff. Their series of tag matches and stuff. But it was pretty fun, as there were some crazy moves, like Nick Jackson hitting a freaking Hurricane Rana on Phoenix off the top rope and stuff. But yeah, really good match to start the show for this episode of AEW Dynamite. The crowd was very into this match. And then we get Britt Baker versus Hikaru Shida in the second match. It was an alright match, nothing too special, but it was nice to see Shida get the win and kind of setting her up to be the number one person to challenge Riho for the AEW Women's World Championship. Shida gave Riho a really good match back at All Out. And that was to set up the number one contender for the World Championship. But yeah, this moves Shida into the number one spot for the Women's World Championship. And then we get the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal also. But before that, actually, we got a Dark Order vignette. Kind of an interesting stuff with that little video. I enjoyed that because, you know what? It gave us some idea of why the Dark Order is the Dark Order and such. I really like that. That was a good thing they did, because Dark Order had not really been connecting with the fans and such, but this kind of gave us a connection. The video kind of gave us a connection with them, so that helped them out. It might help them get more over as villains and such. But yeah, good video compilation there, good video package there for the Dark Order. No vignette. Then we got the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal, and then winner of this, well, the last two to be in the Battle Royal, we're going to be facing off for a special diamond ring next week. Not sure about that gimmick and stuff, but whatever. Get some new people out there and some new people over. And it was the obvious kind of setup. It was a Battle Royal, had some fun spots with Jungle Boy and Orange Cassidy, of course. Nice seeing Billy Gunn in there as a surprise entrant in that 12-man Battle Royal. Plenty of guys got to shine. Maxwell Jacob Friedman, that was his time to shine there. He was the star coming out of this match, and then it's going to be him and Hangman Page next week for the Diamond Ring, special Diamond Ring. But Maxwell Jacob Friedman, he's killing it right now. The fans, when I was there, absolutely booed the living crap out of him. Anything he did, it was booed immediately. Very good interaction between him and the crowd, and it set up a match that should be pretty good next week between Hangman Adam Page and Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Then we get the moment of the night, in my opinion. Maybe number 1 or 2, but I think I'm going to put this at number 1. It is Chris Jericho and Scorpio Sky out there. Chris Jericho was out there with Jake Hager, and he says he's kind of sorry for his actions from last week, where he threw a temper tantrum after getting beat by Scorpio Sky in their tag team match. But it's Jericho's saying that he can't say sorry, so he has Hager say sorry for him and stuff, and then it's going to be some big celebration for the Le Champion next week. And it was really good there. And then we had Scorpio Sky come out and stuff. He felt bad for Jericho and stuff, but he was apologizing for beating him and stuff. And then eventually it led into Scorpio Sky talking about how his DMs were blowing up, and his girlfriend, or what, not his girlfriend, his crush from high school texted him, and they're going out on a date next week. And it was pretty cute there. It was funny and then they even chanted the girl's name during this segment. It was pretty funny. And then Jericho says, she's gained a bit of a weight. And then Scorpio Sky says, I like big butts and I like big butts and I cannot lie. And that was absolutely hilarious. It was great banter between Chris Jericho and Scorpio Sky on there. And then pretty much Scorpio Sky baits him into putting Scorpio Sky, Kazarian, and Daniels bait Jericho into putting his title on the line next week in Chicago. So it's going to be Scorpio Sky and Chris Jericho fighting each other for the AEW World Championship. This is what I like. AEW isn't afraid to create new stars. That's what they did in this segment. This is going to give Scorpio Sky an opportunity to be a star. And getting the rub off of Jericho, even though he probably won't win the title next week, which wouldn't make sense if he did, but it will give him a big rub being in the ring with Jericho, as he calls himself the greatest of all time. But I thought this was a really good segment, really fun segment. The crowd loved it. It was very fun, and it makes me excited for Scorpio Sky and Jericho. It was a great way to set it up. And then after whatever, they shake hands and stuff for the World Championship. It's the Inner Circle comes in, storms the ring, and just jumps Sky, Kazarian, and Daniels and stuff. And then Jurassic Express, Stunt and Company, Jungle Boy, and then Luchasaurus come out. And Luchasaurus actually has a stare down with Hager before Hager backs off. One thing I got to say about Luchasaurus live, holy crap, that dude is huge. Like, I thought he was big, but when you see him live and in person, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy is huge, and he is jacked too at the same time, and he just has a great look. Fans were going crazy for him as he came out. We don't get the match, but then we get we get that face off with Hager and him, and then Hager backs off and stuff, and they all leave the ring. And then right after that, it's the Librarian versus Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus hits 2 moves, ends it pretty much, which was exactly what it needed to be. It reestablishes Luchasaurus as this dominant force that could cause problems for the Inner Circle and stuff. But yeah, I like how that previous part where they set up, they're possibly teasing Hager and Luchasaurus down the road. That should be fun. And then we get Proud and Powerful versus Private Party. This is a fun match. Enjoyed that. Cassidy and company. It was fun. It was pretty fun as Cassidy and Private Party get the win, and it also keeps the feud with the Young Bucks going as Nick Jackson made the save late as they had they had the loaded sock or whatever. They were about to hit Private Party with it and stuff, and Private Party wins with gin and juice, keeps their momentum going. They made the save last week for the Young Bucks, so the Young Bucks paid the favor back to them. And good little storytelling piece there as it continues the issues with the Young Bucks and also Proud and Powerful. And then we get Guevara after the match. He jumps to the ring with his phone in his hand, attacks Nick Jackson. But Dustin Rhodes comes out and makes the save as he's been gone for the last few weeks. And but yeah, I enjoyed that as it continues the issues with the Elite and Proud and Powerful. It keeps the storytelling going. And then Dustin Rhodes is back. He's back in the picture. So the numbers game is not going to be to Proud and Powerful's advantage. It's going to be pretty much dead even. Then next we got Omega and a little video package with Michael Nakazawa. He's doing bench press with like 5 pounds on there. He's going to start his redemption tour next week against Pac in Chicago for AEW Dynamite next Wednesday and stuff. And it was funny at the end how he's benching. He tells Nakazawa to load only one end with 5 pounds, so it's like an unbalanced thing, and he's like struggling and stuff. But good little comedy thing from Kenny Omega there at the end of that video. But I know he's getting himself ready, road back to redemption. I just want to see him have great matches. He's had really good matches, but I want him to have a great match. He hasn't been able to really do that as he's been kind of, I don't know, it just hasn't been there quite yet. And then we get Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley, and this was pretty cool. They were setting up this as a big fight, and heck, it was a big fight. Jon Moxley got one of the biggest pops of the night as he entered through the crowd at the Farmers Coliseum in Indianapolis. But Darby Allin, he got a pop, pretty good pop too. He comes out in a body bag that says Mox and stuff. And you know what? This was a very good match for the parameters they had to deal with, because they had to go in just a normal match pretty much. And it really gave Darby Allin an opportunity to really shine and be the resilient kind of underdog in that match, and Moxley being just the crazy dude that's willing to hurt anybody to get what he wants. And I thought this was a very, very good match. I liked the sequence where Darby Allin goes for the coffin drop, and then Moxley just catches him in a rear naked choke, kind of Moxley showing off his MMA kind of prowess. But yeah, I like the beginning of this match really set the tone as it was just going to be a crazy fight between these two, and Moxley and Allin, and they did as much as they could with the parameters they were given, which was just a normal one fall match. Disqualifications were in effect, so because they kind of did too many hardcore matches before that with the kind of the lights out matches and stuff. This would be, I think this would be a great opportunity to use the unsanctioned version, but they haven't really built the story enough for that, and I don't need to see another unsanctioned match for a little bit. But that being said, yes, they had a heck of a match. Moxley gets the win with a freaking paradigm shift DDT off the the middle rope. That looked insane. It looked like Allen landed almost straight on his head, I liked how Allen sold it at the end, the effects of the DDT and such. And it was a good close of the show. I really enjoyed that. That match was a very good one, along with Nick Jackson and Phoenix at the beginning of the night. Those matches were both very, very good. Very fun show for AEW Dynamite on TNT that night. I had a lot of fun at that event. I hadn't been to a wrestling event since 2016, but I like to touch on some stuff after the show during the dark period. Cody comes out. He announces that they're going to be back in Indy again. He found that out about halfway through the show. And then after the Kenny Omega match, which will air on probably Dark next week with Jack Evans for the AAA, not sure what title it is again, but it's a AAA championship. So it was Kenny Omega, Jack Evans. But what I appreciate is they thank the fans afterward. Cody was thanking the fans. He even took a selfie with the fans in Indianapolis. But and then the Bucks, not the Bucks, but Nick and Kenny talked to the crowd afterwards and just kind of saying thank you and such, and got a good crowd interaction at the end. Just I think that's what I like about them, is they're so down to earth and kind of grateful for the fans and such. But yes, I really enjoyed that part. That's it. What I really thought was a good show, and I'm going to give it the number one spot this week. AEW Dynamite definitely was the best show of the week. Also, number two was, I think, Monday Night Raw, because it had some really good wrestling. Number three was Number one is AEW Dynamite. Number two was NWA Powerrr, and then number three was Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw had some good wrestling, but it just felt like it dragged for me at the end. But AEW Dynamite definitely won the week for me. But stay tuned for the NXT War Games review this weekend. Also, the Survivor Series review on Monday. We'll have the NXT TakeOver review up on Sunday. But before I go, make sure to follow me on the socials, Twitter and Facebook at SigDaddyWrestle. And also, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and also on YouTube. That's going to do it all for me on this episode. Thank you all for listening, and so long, everybody.